He bought it for $12,000. No inspection. No questions. Just a signature and a set of rusted keys to a church no one in town would even look at. You'd think that was the first red flag. But it wasn't. The real red flag? No one showed up to the sale. Not a single bidder. Not even curiosity. Just silence. The kind of silence that feels intentional. Now here's where it gets strange. The church wasn't always abandoned. 20 years ago, it was packed every Sunday. Families. Choirs. Weddings. Full pews. A living place. And then, overnight, everyone stopped going. No explanation. No scandal in the papers. No fire. No crime report. Just empty. Doors locked. Windows boarded. History erased. And when he asked the locals why, they didn't answer. They changed the subject. They avoided eye contact. One man actually walked away mid-sentence. That's when he knew. This wasn't just an abandoned building. It was something people were actively trying to forget. So he did what most people wouldn't. He went inside. The air hit him first. Thick, stale, like it hadn't moved in years. Dust floated in the light, cutting through broken stained glass. The pews were still there. Hymn books untouched. It looked like everyone had just left. Mid-service. But then he noticed something that didn't make sense. Every single cross in the building was turned upside down. Not broken. Not fallen. Turned. On purpose. And that's when he heard it. A faint sound, coming from beneath the floor. A slow, hollow knock. Like something was down there. Waiting. And whatever it was, it hadn't left with the rest of the town. He froze. That knock came again. Slow. Deliberate. Not random. Not the house settling. 3 taps. Then silence. You ever hear a sound so out of place your brain tries to explain it away? Pipes. Wind. Animals. That's exactly what he did. Except there were no pipes. No wind. And no way anything alive had been under that floor for 20 years. He grabbed his phone, turned on the flashlight, and moved down the aisle. Each step echoed too loud, like the room didn't want him there. The knocking stopped. Of course it did. Right when he got close. He stood over the center row of pews, scanning the warped floorboards. That's when he saw it. One plank slightly darker than the rest. Not rotten. Not cracked. Replaced. Recently. Now that didn't fit the story. This place was supposed to be untouched. Forgotten. Frozen in time. So who came back? And why only that spot? He knelt down, brushing away dust. The wood was solid. Cleaner. Like someone didn't want it to decay with the rest of the building. That's when he noticed something else. Tiny markings along the edge. Not scratches. Symbols. Carved in a tight pattern, almost like they were sealing something in or keeping something out. And then, a voice behind him. Don't. He spun around. An old man stood at the entrance. Thin. Pale. Eyes locked on the floor. Not him. You shouldn't touch that, the man said, barely above a whisper. Why? He asked. The old man finally looked up. And for a second, he looked terrified. Not of the church. Of what was under it. You don't understand, the man said. We buried that for a reason. Buried. Not abandoned. Buried. And before he could ask another question, the old man turned and walked out. Fast. Like he'd already said too much. Now the silence felt different. He wasn't alone anymore. Not really. Because whatever was under those boards was still there. And it had just been acknowledged. He didn't follow the old man. Not yet. Because now the question wasn't who warned him. It was what they were afraid of. He turned back to the floor. That darker plank suddenly felt louder. Like it was daring him. So he did the one thing the entire town refused to do. He pried it up. The wood resisted at first, like it had been nailed down recently. Not decades ago. Recently. That detail didn't sit right. Because if this place was truly abandoned, then someone had been coming back. Regularly. The board finally cracked loose with a sharp snap that echoed through the church. And underneath? Not dirt. Not concrete. A hatch. Metal. Old, but maintained. A small iron ring set into it, polished just enough to suggest it had been used. More than once. His grip tightened as he pulled. The hinges groaned, but they moved. Slowly. Like they hadn't been opened in a while. But not long enough. A wave of cold air rushed up from below. Not the kind you get from a basement. This was different. Damp. Heavy. And carrying a smell he couldn't place at first. Until it hit him. Decay. But not recent. Something older. Something sealed. He hesitated. Just for a second. Then he shined his light down into the opening. Stairs. Narrow. Steep. Leading into complete darkness. No end in sight. And along the walls, more of those same symbols, carved deep this time, repeating, over and over, like a warning, or a prayer that didn't work. Then his phone flickered, just once. Then again. Battery, 70%. No reason for that. Unless something down there didn't want to be seen. That's when he heard it again. Not knocking this time. Breathing. Slow. Uneven. Coming from below. And it definitely wasn't echoing. He should have closed the hatch. Every instinct said walk away, call someone, let this become somebody else's problem. But here's the thing about curiosity. Once it hooks you, logic doesn't stand a chance. He stepped onto the first stair. It creaked, loud and sharp, like it hadn't carried weight in years, or like it was warning him. The light from above barely followed him down. Each step swallowed more of it until the church felt distant, like it didn't exist anymore. Halfway down, he noticed the walls. Not just symbols this time. Names. Hundreds of them. Carved deep into the wood. Different handwriting. Different sizes. Some neat. Some frantic. Some barely legible. Like people had been in a rush. Or terrified. He ran his fingers over one of the names. The wood was smoother there. Worn down. Repeated touch. Repeated panic. And then he saw something that made his stomach drop. Dates. Next to the names. Spanning years. Decades. But they all stopped on the same day. 20 years ago. The exact week the church went silent. That wasn't coincidence. That was an endpoint. A cutoff. Like something happened, and no one added another name after that. Ever. His light flickered again. Longer this time. And when it came back, he realized something worse. The staircase didn't just go down. It split. Two directions. One path looked older, collapsing inward, almost natural. The other? Reinforced. Supported. Maintained. Used. Recently. And from that direction came the breathing. Clearer now. Closer. He leaned in, listening. Trying to convince himself it was just airflow. Just pressure. Just anything normal. But then, it stopped. Completely. Like whatever was down there had just realized it wasn't alone anymore. And then something moved. Not far away. Right at the end of that reinforced tunnel. Just beyond where his light could reach. He didn't speak. Because whatever moved down that tunnel didn't feel random. It felt aware. Watching him. Waiting. His flashlight shook as he aimed it forward. The beam barely stretched before the darkness swallowed it whole. Then he saw it. A door. Thick. Reinforced. Sealed from the outside. Chains wrapped tight. Multiple locks. Not old. Either. Maintained. Someone wanted whatever was inside to stay there. He stepped closer. And that's when he noticed the scratches. Deep. Violent. Dragging downward across the metal. From the inside. Over and over again. Not random marks. Patterns. Like something had tried to write. Or remember how. His chest tightened. Because that meant one thing. It was alive. Then. A sound. Right behind the door. A slow drag across the floor. The chains gave a faint rattle. He froze. And then. A voice. Hello. Weak. Broken. Human. Every instinct flipped. Someone was trapped. Down here. Forgotten. He leaned closer. Who's in there? Silence. Then. Don't. The word barely formed. And right after. Slam. Something hit the door from the inside. Hard. Violent. The chains jerked tight. Not human. Not even close. The air shifted again. He stepped back slowly. Because in that moment, it became clear. The door wasn't just keeping something in. It might have been protecting everyone else from it. And then, one of the locks clicked. The door didn't swing open. It breathed open. Slow. Heavy. Like whatever was behind it hadn't used it in years, but knew exactly how. He stepped back, heart slamming. The gap widened. Darkness spilled out first. Thick, suffocating, almost alive. Then, a hand. Pale. Thin. Human. It gripped the edge of the door, trembling. For a second, hope hit him. Someone survived. Someone was trapped. Then the hand tightened. Too tight. The fingers bent wrong. And the rest of it followed. It stepped into the light. Not fully. Just enough. Enough to see the face. Or what used to be one. Sunken. Stretched. Eyes wide open, but not blinking. Not human anymore. Not completely. You opened it, it said. Clearer now. Stronger. Like it had been waiting for a voice to return. He backed up fast. But the thing didn't rush him. It just watched. Studied. Learning. That's when he understood the truth the town buried. This wasn't a prison. It was a transformation. Everyone who stayed didn't leave. They changed. Down here. In the dark. And those names on the walls. They weren't victims. They were stages. Records of who went in. And what came out. You're early, it said, tilting its head, smiling just slightly. Behind him, the staircase creaked. Another step. From above. He turned. And his blood ran cold. People. At the top of the stairs. Silent. Watching. The same empty expressions. The same stillness. The entire town. And the old man stood in front. You weren't supposed to open it, he said calmly. Not afraid anymore. Resolved. We keep it fed, so it doesn't spread. The thing behind him moved closer. Close enough to whisper. And what it said changed everything. Now it knows you. The light died. The tunnel went black. And somewhere in that darkness, something new took its first breath. The click wasn't loud. But in that tunnel, it might as well have been a gunshot. He froze. Eyes locked on the chains. Another click. Slower this time. Deliberate. Like something on the other side had learned how. The metal links tightened, then shifted. Not breaking. Adjusting. His brain tried to catch up. Locks don't just open themselves. Not after 20 years. Unless they weren't sealed from the outside. They were managed. Maintained. Controlled. By someone. Or something. Still down here. He took a step back. Then another. The flashlight flickered hard now, dimming in uneven pulses. That's when the voice came again. Closer this time. Right against the door. You came back. Not a question. A statement. Familiar. Like it recognized him. But that wasn't possible. He'd never been here before. Who are you? He asked, barely steady. Silence. Then a low exhale. And the tone changed. Flattened. Less human. You shouldn't have opened it. The last lock shifted. Half loose now. Chains sagging just enough to create a gap. Darkness pressed through it. Thick. Almost physical. Then he saw it. An eye. Not fully visible. Just a shape catching the edge of his light. Too still. Too focused. Watching him. The way a person studies something they've missed. Or waited for. His chest tightened. Because now he understood something the town never said out loud. They didn't abandon the church. They contained it. And whatever was inside was never meant to get out. The chain dropped another inch. And the door started to move.